So the Philippine Airlines Airbus A350 was the last model we got from Herpa Wings in scale 500 of the airline, and it doesn't look like we will get anything else in the near future. But I didn't want to wait that long for my next Philippine Airlines review, so let's go back to the year 2011 and take a look at this model. With that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at an Airbus A330-300 of Philippine Airlines. At the front of the box we have the cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and underneath that we find the Philippine Airlines branding. Then the backside of the box gives us a lovely image of the aircraft in real life. We can see it is a limited edition. We have the original dimensions as well as some additional information. So that's it for the box. Let's take a closer look inside and at the aircraft model itself. And here she is, the Airbus A330-300 of Philippine Airlines in their current standard livery, with around 15 aircraft in their fleet, although these numbers do change rather quickly these days, so it might not be 100% accurate anymore. The A330 could be considered the workhorse of the Philippine Airlines wide-body fleet. The model itself from Herpa Wings was produced in 2011, so we should take a tour around the model to see what Herpa actually managed to pull off at the time. So if we start off with the tail section, we can see on the vertical stabilizer we have the Philippine Airlines branding or color scheme on the horizontal stabilizer, which of course is heavily inspired by the Philippine flag. That we do find on the fuselage, where we also have the full registration code of the aircraft, and towards the very tail of the aircraft we do also have a little bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. At the front of the aircraft and across the fuselage we then have the simple writing of Philippines. That leads us to the cockpit section, which we need to talk about. I do like the mold that Herpa has for their A330s, but in this case I'm not entirely convinced about the cockpit windows. Now, they might not look any different than on any other A330 of Herpa Wings, and it might just be because there are no other details, so there's no reference point as to if the placement of the cockpit windows is correct, but for me it just looks a little bit strange. It's by no means as bad as, for example, with the A340-600 of Lufthansa that we reviewed some time ago, or the recent 7478F of Cargolux, but I would also not call it great. But at the very least we do have the window wipers printed on. Now, the Philippine Airlines livery just contains a lot of white, so it makes it even more important that Herpa would add just a few details that actually belong to the aircraft itself and not the livery. But when we look at the engines, well, we can see that Herpa has also failed to do so here, because the only thing we have here is simply the silver leading edge. The physical detailing of the engines is great. I really cannot fault it there. I mean, it looks nice. Also, when we look into the engines from the front, we can very nicely see the engine fan blades. It's kind of the same story with the wings. If we take a look here at the top side, we have the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. Yes, we do have some different shades of grey for additional detailing, and the full registration code of the aircraft, which we then also find on the underside of the wing. But also here I would argue that it is mainly the physical detailing that actually makes the aircraft look nice, not so much any printed details from Herpa Wings or the lack of those. It's the same thing for the winglets. I mean, they're there. That's it. I mean, they have the Philippine color scheme on the outer side, but that's because of the livery, not because of Herpa adding any details specific to the aircraft type. And I feel like the model is making me sound like a broken record, because when we look at the landing gear, the physical detailing of that is really nice. It's the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all their A330s, and in this case they're doing a really great job. But again, just a few printed details would have elevated the model, especially around the front landing gear. And then last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here in the back side of the aircraft and here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A330-300 in the current standard livery of Philippine Airlines in scale 1 to 500 from Herpa Wings. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Well, let me just first make something clear, just to avoid any misunderstandings, on something I said earlier in the video. Obviously, Herpa does add details that belong to the aircraft itself and have nothing to do with the livery. But those are the very most basic details: silver leading edge, cockpit windows, window wipers, cabin doors and cabin windows. I mean, you cannot make it more basic than what Herpa did here. This doesn't make the model so much worse than so many other models of Herpa Wings, but it is just a combination of Herpa only doing the bare minimum and then having a livery that comprises of so much white, because it makes it so much more obvious how much is actually missing. The print quality itself of Herpa Wings is of a high level, which makes it even more a shame that they haven't added any details. The physical detailing, I would also say, is great. I like the shape of the mold. I like the cockpit shape. Okay, I mentioned the cockpit windows. I think it's mainly just because there is just no reference point to the cockpit windows because there are no other details, but maybe take a look at that yourself to see if you are happy with it or not. Ultimately, if you like Philippine Airlines, this might be an aircraft for your collection, but obviously you don't have many alternatives on the A330 because this is the only model there is in scale 500. But I really can't blame you if you conclude that there might be other models out there that excite you more. Now with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to leave a like, that would be very much appreciated. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.